All right, guys, so it's my teacher video for Thursday, October 29th. And so today I had in my lesson plans, and you will see in the slides, if you read the slides, and you very well should read the slides, that I had anticipated us reading chapter September of the Wednesday Wars today. Only in three of my classes did we actually start to read chapter September, and that was third period, fourth period, and seventh period. However, chapter September is a not a very lengthy chapter. We can easily read it in one class period. So as of right now, I am not adjusting any of the important dates that you will see in the slides, okay? So I'm not going to go through the slides with you. I do expect that you do that on your own, and you really do need to go through the slides on your own because there are some very important dates that you won't otherwise see or know about. So please make sure you are reading the slides. So what I want to show you is how we are going to track our reading as we read chapter September. And so notice that the chapters in the Wednesday Wars are organized according to months of the school year because we go through the school year with our main character, okay? So we're going to go to Schoology and click on our course. Click on the unit plan folder, set orange folder, and then click on standard level skills. And we'll go down and go to, of course, our weekly folder here. And then we will click on today's folder. Today is Thursday, October 29th. And we want to open our guided reading organizer. So let's click make a copy. Now, since you are home, of course, there is more than one way that you can read chapter September. So you can read along with us in class as I play, and then you follow along in your PDF book. I will show the PDF at the end of this video. Or you can read by yourself and simply read the PDF book or listen to the audio and follow along in the PDF book as we do in class. So since I have made a copy of this document, I am now going to go out of my Schoology app and go to my slides. It's taking it a minute. But there it is. So here's my copy. And now because I've made a copy, I'm able to type in it. And so when I click on my boxes, you see that a text box shows up and I'm able to type, okay? So if you read the beginning up here, which you should, this will kind of help orient or direct your thinking and help you understand why we are doing such a reading guide. So later in the quarter, I'm going to require you to analyze characters and to analyze how the storyline develops, to analyze the theme of the novel, and to be able to trace that theme throughout the novel. These larger skills are not things that you can accomplish if you don't understand the smaller pieces of the text, okay? And so instead of just telling you you need to know the smaller pieces of the text, I'm requiring that you actually track those things. So as we read chapter September, I want you to track some of the basics. And so this reading guide is due tomorrow on Friday, because you can complete the majority of the reading guide as you read the chapter, okay? And so the very first thing that you want to complete on is setting. And so one student thought that a box was missing besides setting, but a box is not missing. Setting is actually the heading here, and I just failed to put it in the center, okay? But setting is made up of the time period and the place, and we're adding social atmosphere here. So let's talk about time period. It should have said time/period, okay? So not just time period. So a lot of the times when we talk about setting, students look for a year or they look for a month, but they forget that setting encompasses so much more than that. So yes, knowing the months and the year are part of setting, or is a part of setting, but what's also a part of setting is knowing the era. And so I've already told you the era of the setting here, and you've done your breakout room on this all along, and that's the Vietnam War. But there are so many other things that were happening in that time span that we want to also keep track of in our time period box, okay? Now let's look at place. And so here, if I open this document and you only have one thing typed here, you have not fully understood place. And so place is going to encompass the locations where our characters spend a lot of their time, okay? So naturally, the town or the city where a story takes place is a part of the place, right? That's the location. But those places or locations that we see our characters spending a lot of their time are also a part of place. And so we talked about in class today, like if someone were to write the story of our lives, what would be our places? What would be our locations that we would track as setting? And so people have answered school and home and outdoors and my aunt's house and my grandmother's house or church or something like that. So places where we frequent often. So if you think about from week to week, day to day, places that you go to often, those are part of the setting of your life. And so it is in this example. It's the same in our story here. So the places where we see our characters spend a lot of their time, like the school, and I'm not going to name any others because I want you to pay close attention as you're reading, those locations are a part of the place. And now let's think about the social atmosphere, okay? So the social atmosphere has to do with what's going on in society. So what's happening in the world around our characters? What is the culture like? How are people feeling? How are they being affected by things that are going on? So the example that I gave in class was, have you ever walked in a room and like the air in the room was so thick because you could just tell that something bad had happened. Like even though no one was saying anything, you could just feel it. So that's part of the atmosphere. So I want you to pay attention to things like that. I want you to pay attention to the culture. I want you to pay attention to how things are changing. All of those things are big parts of the social atmosphere. All right. So that is setting. Now, the next thing is a chapter summary. So, of course, a summary tells the main parts of a text, and you cannot fully complete a summary until you have read the chapter. So, of course, we'll have to save this box until the very end. And now notice the parenthetical information or the sentence in parentheses. It says that you must summarize in just 3 to 4 good sentences. So, even though this chapter is, many pages long, I do not expect your summary to be nearly as long as that, okay? So 3 to 4 sentences is enough space for you to tell the main points of the chapter, the main things that someone would need to know to understand what that chapter was about. We would do that at the very end after we have read the entire chapter. And then this blue box, this one, says important chapter quotes and events. And so as we're reading, when you see something that you feel like could later be important or something that sticks with you, something that seems like it sticks out, that is going to come up again, like we haven't seen the end of it, you want to put it in that box so you can keep track of that. Things like that tend to lead us to being able to pick out the theme of a text. But if you forget those things, then you'll have a hard time trying to come up with a theme. So please track those important events and things that people say that seem to be highly important to how people are feeling and where the story is going. We want to put that in that blue box, okay? Now, there is a page 2 here. So page 2, is a loner because you're going to need some space. So on this particular page, I want you to keep track of the characters as you meet them. In the yellow box, you will record the characters' names when you're introduced to a character. If you learn a character's first and last name, please do record both parts of his or her name, okay? And then in the middle, so yellow box is for the name. And then in the middle, the blue box, this is for helping us to think about how the character relates to the story, okay? Because every character who is in the story for a reason. And remember, the storyline revolves around our main characters. And so every character that's introduced has some connection to that main character in some form or fashion, okay? So like you are my student. If a story was written about your life and you're a student, a big part of your life is going to school. So naturally your teachers will come up. So as the reader will be introduced to your teachers, we will list the teachers in the yellow box and then say, who is Mrs. Foster? So Mrs. Foster is Larson's teacher, okay? So that's how that will work. So as we meet our character, we put the name here. As we realize who that character is and their importance in the story and how they're related to our main characters, we will put that in this blue box. Now this far right box, this pink box says, what do you know or think about them? So sometimes we'll meet a character and not really know a lot about them, and so you can tell me what you think. However, if you find out information about that character, this pink box should tell me what you know about the character. So I want to know, what does the character look like? How does that character act? How does that character affect those around him or her? Like, why is that character important? These are things that you know about the character. So without me actually saying it or typing it on my page, what I'm actually asking you to do in this far right box is still, I want to know, what are they saying? What are they thinking? How are they affecting others? What are their actions? What do they look like? Okay, so all of those things go in this far right box here. So this is what we call actively reading. So when you are actively reading, you are not just sitting and listening. You are doing something with the text. You are engaging with the text. And so that's what we're going to do. And so when you read like this, it does take a little bit more time to read like this because you're having to stop along the way, okay? So remember, the reading guide right now is due Friday. If I see that we need more time, I'll be sure to give us more time. So let's go back to Schoology in this same video instead of making more than one video. Let's go back to Schoology. And you also have a quick write. Let me show you the book first. So we are in the standard skills folder. We clicked on unit plan. We're in the standard level skills folder, And so you see that the very first thing here is the book. And so what I want you to do is not just read the book within Schoology. I want you to actually download it. So you're going to click on that little arrow up there in that box, and I want you to send this book to PDF cabinet. So when you see the purple highlighter and the word cabinet, you're going to click on that and send your book there, okay? Now, let's take a look at this quick write in this week's folder, in today's folder. I just want to make sure that you understand it. So, the quick write says, what life events have affected the way you view the world? Have there been world events that affect that view? Explain your answer. What is your why? Now, it also says neither your life event or your world event has to be something sad. And if you do not have a world event, that is fine. But if you are living and breathing, you should have a life event. So that life event can be something happy, something sad, something that made you angry. something negative, something positive, something has affected you as you've lived this life in your 12 or 13 years, okay? And so for my virtual students, you are going to click on the Create tab. You are not typing in your, or not writing, in your writer's composition notebook. You're going to click on the Create tab and type your response there. Now, what do I mean about life events and world event? So a life event is something that has happened in your home or in your personal life. To you personally or to someone who's very close to you that has affected you in some type of way, okay? Whether it be positive or negative, whether it be scoring your first goal or losing a pet or something like that. All of those things are life events, okay? Now, a world event is a bit different. So we talked about in class that it can be a world event in terms of the world at large, like the nation, or it can be a world event in terms of your local community, like Oxford. So things that happen that may not happen to someone you know or happen to you personally, but they're things that happen that affect you, okay? So that's a world event. So basically, you are going to tell me what that event was. So you need to explain the event, right? And then you also need to tell me how or why that event impacted you, okay? And so that is your response for today. So virtual students, remember that you have 2 quick writes to submit for this week. Your weekly checklist is in the updates, and I have also sent that to your parents. So please make sure that you are on top of your work, as this folder for this week will close after Sunday. Please do, as always, email me if you have any questions, and my email address, ndkennell-foster@oxfordsd.org, is at the very top of the updates page.